Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where today we've got two FV107 replays, and the topic for today's video is Autolock. Now in this video I'm going to try and cover everything there is to talk about regarding Autolock. Now right now I think I've got everything there is to talk about, but chances are I've missed something, so if I have, just drop it in the comments below, or if I get something wrong, again just drop it in the comments below. So Autolock. Let's start with the very basics. What is Autolock? I know this might seem like this might seem like a redundant question to some of you, but this game doesn't do a very good job of explaining itself. So it's possible there are some 3, 4, 5 year veterans out there that don't know what Autolock is. So right now I'm manually aiming. Everyone has probably done that, but now I'm auto aiming, and with my controller setup I've got the controller button layout. My button layout is handbrake. So for me, auto lock is right bump. So if I aim at a target, press right bump, I auto lock, which is exactly what I'm doing with this chaffee right here. I'm still, I think, no, I've disengaged auto lock. But what I want to do, there is an audio cue when auto lock engages. So I want to stay silent. There, you hear that high-pitched sort of squeal. That's the sound of auto lock engaging. Now what auto lock does, you can see it here, is it auto aims at the center of mass of any enemy target. So the M46 is, well, stationary against the boundary there, but even when I was approaching him and this group of rocks to my right was in the way, I was still able to auto lock him, because the system was engaged and it just aims at the center of mass of whatever target you've decided to lock onto. Now I'm using auto lock again here to take on this FV101, which is helpful because I can concentrate on driving while the gun basically aims itself. Now you might think, oh, that's a bit of a hack, that's a bit of a cheat, but remember, it aims at the center of mass. In this game, shells have velocity. They have distance to travel. So you have to lead shots if targets are at range. So the only way for auto lock to really be of benefit to you when you're moving or at range is if the target is not really moving left or right of you all that much. If there's not much horizontal movement of the target, then their center of mass isn't moving enough for the travel time of the shell to matter. So you do have to know what you're doing with auto aim. It's not a freebie, it's not a handout, it's not just a here, have free damage because you can just magically hit the target whenever you want to. It has to be used appropriately. Now the history of auto lock is, well, it's as old as the game. As far as I'm aware, Autolock is as old as the game itself. So World of Tanks on PC, that's where this whole journey started. It's always been a part of the game. And later on we'll discuss, potential changes to Autolock and what they might be. But I'll state right now, I don't think Wargaming will ever change anything to do with Autolock, because for various reasons, but the reason they will cite, I don't think the reason that there are other reasons, but the one that they will acknowledge and the one that they will stick to is it's a core part of the game and we're not going to change it because it's a core part of the game. So it's been here since day one, and they will stand by the fact that it's, it's part of the foundation of this game. It's not going anywhere, it's not changing. So that's what Autolock is, that's how it works, and that's where it came from. Let's talk about the evolution of the game and how, even though this mechanic hasn't really changed all that much, the evolution of the tanks within the game has meant that the way the mechanic is perceived has changed. So, in the old days, and when I say old days, I mean pre-6.0, I mean the days when World War II was the only game mode in this game, we still had auto lock. And on tanks like the Tier 8 Premium T92, it was kind of helpful because the T92 is quite nimble, it's got quite an accurate gun, and when you're circling Tier 8 mediums, it's helpful. it can be very helpful to have auto-lock in a light tank, because you need to circle, you need to watch for rocks, you want to do damage to the target, but you also need to be careful about where you're driving. You need to dip in and out of cover as you're reloading, come up over a ridge after you've reloaded, dip down behind a ridge when you're come out from cover when you want to fire, dip back behind a ridge when you're reloading. You need to concentrate on where you're going. There needs to be that extra focus on just the driving element of the game. And if you were to add aiming the gun on top of that, well, a difficult job will be made harder, and after all, this is an arcade game, it's meant to be fun, so let's not get too bogged down in the nitty-gritty of whether auto-aim was really a thing for these vehicles. It's an arcade game. World War II, it's there. It's not a game-winning strategy because you're not aiming for weak points when you use it. You're aiming centre of mass, and the tanks aren't really that quick in World War II. It's a slight advantage for anyone who's kind of panicking, or a light tank driver who needs to focus on driving. It was just another mechanic. It wasn't really viewed as, oh, this is broken, this is completely busted, this is terrible. Because nothing was really that powerful. Accuracy of World War II guns is nothing like the accuracy of Cold War guns. So if your turret is traversing, if the hull is traversing, if you're moving, your accuracy is awful. You auto-lock center of mass, you pull the trigger, shot just goes wild, and it's like, oh, okay, not really a problem. Unless you're in the KV2 and you just auto-lock and snap someone from the other side of the map and nuke them, and you're like, oh my word, what the hell was that? And those were the rare moments where auto-lock was like, wow, that's just crazy. How did that happen? But those occasions were so rare that, yeah, it wasn't really worth complaining about. It wasn't really an issue. So, yes, it's always been here. It's not really been an issue. However, recently, this is something that myself and other people have noticed as well, and it would seem that recently, auto-locking has changed. I don't know if Wargaming have tampered with it or whatever, or anything. I have no idea if it's just the same as it always was. It's just the accuracy of these guns is coming into play, but what I've noticed is this. You can aim a shot across the map, fully aimed, pull the trigger, and not hit a damn thing. Even though you're aiming at the target, you'll just miss or you'll bounce. If the target is spotted, and you auto-lock them from the other side of the map, magically your shot will find the weak pixel, and it'll snipe it. Now, this did happen in World War II. I mentioned, the KV2 sniping someone from across the map with auto-lock. So, it's not a new phenomenon. It's always been there. But what I suspect is happening is, because the accuracy of these Cold War guns is as great as it is, this sort of once a month kind of, oh my word kind of shot, how did that pen? It's now becoming more and more frequent, and people are noticing it more. And it's kind of turning auto-lock into this sort of, well, what's the point in aiming? Why aim if my aim shot's gonna bounce? Why would I aim? Because this happens in mediums and heavies. You'll auto-lock something, snap, hit them. You aim, oh, miss, bounce. Okay. So this is kind of where we're starting to see some changes in the way auto-lock is used. Then, so that's the introduction of Cold War. More accurate guns, auto-lock is still there, but suddenly we can auto-lock things from across the map, hit them when we never normally could. It negates aiming. Why aim when I can just auto-lock? So there's the slight introduction. That's the introduction of Cold War to the game. That's how things started. Now we fast forward to more aggressive light tank play. For example, the German light tanks. The Marder, and especially the Bagel. Now we have ATGMs in play on top of this laser-like accuracy of auto-aim, because the guns are so accurate. And we have this sort of this gameplay strategy where you blat someone with an ATGM, and then you use your hyper accurate bye-bye M46. You use your laser accurate gun and your concealment, because you're a light tank, and your autocannon. You put the ATGM in, you do 1200, 1400 damage, whatever it might be, and then you just finish them off with the autocannon. All the while, this person really has no time to react, and they're dead within 10 seconds. And maybe they get one shot off, two if they're lucky. And we're now in this sort of, why aim? Why would I aim in my light tanks? I mean, we've had the BMP2. The BMP2 was, it's always been in the game. The FV107, from a Cold War point of view, it's always been in the game. But in my opinion, one of the balancing features of the 107 BMP2, one of the main balancing feature for these vehicles was, yes, you can auto-lock. But similar to World War II, auto-lock wasn't just, hey, free, boom, you're free damage, off you go, RBRT, which is right. I think I've said that already. Right bump, right trigger. I'll say it again. Yeah, right bump, right trigger is basically auto-lock. You can't just RBRT things. You can in World War II, but it's not just a free handout. It's not a free win. It's not free damage, and it was always kind of the same with the excuse me, with the FV107 and the BMP2. The BMP2 doesn't have brilliant penetration, and it's got 15 alpha per shot. The FV107 has a 6-round clip, and in the old days it had 25 alpha per shot. It's now, I think it's now 45. It was 25, but and I'll just take a break here to note, this is one of the rare occasions where I'm actually playing the 107 like a sniper. Don't see this very often. But yeah, in the old days, yeah, you could auto-lock, but it wasn't a guaranteed pen. It wasn't guaranteed damage. You still had to know what you were doing. But what shifted with the German tech tree was, you can auto-lock. You can not know what you're doing. You can auto-lock and do well. And this is where I think people started to notice, hang on, this whole auto-lock thing it's a bit of an issue. These guns are highly accurate. You can't auto-lock an ATGM. Well, you can use the auto-lock system to target somebody with the ATGM equipped, but if you pull the trigger, it won't auto-track. And which is a good thing, because that really would be ridiculously broken. But we're in a phase where you have to aim the ATGM, but if you've snuck up behind someone, then you've got the advantage of time and them not knowing you're there. So you've got all the time in the world to aim and guide your ATGM into the target. And then when you do fire and they know you're there, you're spotted, but you can then use auto-lock on your autocannon to just shred them to pieces and finish them off. And this is where the whole kind of, well, this doesn't seem quite right. This seems like a degradation of the quality of the gameplay. Why would I play my Leopard 1 or a Leopard 1A3 or 1A1 or 1A5? Why play these tanks when I can just play an RBRT monster and well, basically win without trying? The German light tanks then became very, very popular for that very reason. They were insanely powerful, and I reached a point where I got to a point in the early days of the German light where I thought, I'm not playing the Bagel. I'm not going to play the Bagel because it's just so overpowered and broken. It's not rewarding to me to be shredding people when they have absolutely no chance of fighting back. It wasn't worth playing, it wasn't worth bragging about, it wasn't worth making videos on, because it's not an achievement. You're just seal clubbing at that point. You're going into a little kid's play area, and this sort of picture the dodgeball kind of scenario. You're going into a little kid's dodgeball game as an adult, and just smacking every little kid you can with a ball and going, "Hey, I won." It's like, yeah, of course you won. You're freaking way better than the competition. That's not something to brag about. That's ridiculous. So that's where I ended up with this kind of tech tree, the whole German tech tree. Now I know Wargaming nerfed it, but it's still this strategy. I think what happened was players got used to this strategy, and it became the meta, which unfortunately was a term that we never used to have in World of Tanks meta. There was no meta tank, it was whatever worked best for you. But Wargaming seemed to have adjusted the way they developed this game to match the meta playstyle. And there is no other tank that is a better example of this meta playstyle. Can you guess which one it is? Can you guess? Era 2? Light tank? Autocannon? Can you guess? Yes, the Weasel 1. The Weasel 1 is the pinnacle of this Autolock gameplay. And this is where we loop around to the potential changes that the community would like to see to Autolock. Now, yes, accuracy of these guns is insanely good. But then the Cold War era tanks, especially the modern era tanks, they are laser accurate. They need to be. Technology has allowed us to get to a point where these guns are pretty much laser accurate. So having accurate guns is, well, it is what it is. So what do? Do we adjust the auto-lock system? And if we do, how do we adjust it? And honestly, short of just taking it out the game, which is exactly what War Thunder is. War Thunder does not have an auto-lock system, so every shot that's fired is manually aimed, which, it's like, okay, that guy clearly aimed his shot and beat me, or I aimed my shot and I beat him. There's no debate about it. But that's not going to happen, because Wargaming, like I said at the start, will claim, no, this is a core part of our game. We're not taking it out. Even though they've taken out other core parts of the game, they just pick and choose what they mean by core part of the game. But that's the excuse they'll use. That's the reason they will cite. But really, let's look at this realistically. Wargaming is a business, and they have figured out a very good way of making money. They have figured out that if they can sell a tank that requires people to switch their brains off, then, if they can sell a tank that people can do well in while switching their brains off, is what I'm trying to say, then they're going to. And that's exactly what the Weasel 1 is. You've had a hard day at work, tough day at work, you just want to sit down, you want to blat some people online, so you buy the Weasel 1, you take it out for 5 games, you get MVP 5 times in a row, or you come top of your team 5 times in a row because you don't win every game. You feel good about yourself for 5 games, and then you go have your Chinese takeaway and you go to bed after a couple of beers. That kind of scenario. It's like, okay, yeah, great. You've had a good evening. But you've had a good evening at the expense of everybody else in Era 2. But the expense has really been paid for because people like this playstyle. That's why the Weasel is as popular as it is. It makes money. So why on earth would Wargaming change auto-aim? They are not about to change the one mechanic that makes their best-selling tank in Era 2 redundant. Can you just imagine the utter outroar, the outcry, the anger at Wargaming for changing auto-aim from every single Weasel 1 player? Can you imagine? It would be utter pandemonium. Wargaming would lose so much money because people would want refunds. They are not going to change the one mechanic that is the linchpin to the success of the Weasel. If they change auto-aim, the Weasel's dead in the water because people would then have to aim. people would have to aim their shots, and you'd see Weasels dying left and right because they'd drive into a rock, or they'd drive off a cliff because someone was having to manually off, you know, God forbid someone manually aim a shot. You know, it's just not going to happen. As much as people will talk about how auto-aim needs to change, how much Wargaming need to address it, how unfair it can be with these super accurate guns. Like, yeah, I mean, the accuracy of the guns comes with the tanks, it comes with the territory, but I don't think they really put much thought into how it's going to affect the game, because here we are, or maybe they did put thought into it, I don't know, maybe they've deliberately created a tank that is just, it's completely based on the RBRT strategy. They're never going to change it, guys. They're just not. Anyway, there's the FV107, 8 kills, 5,458 damage. And that was a unique game in the FV107 because I was actually playing it from range, sniping with it. So, hey, not bad. But there we go, guys. That is basically my take on Autolock. I do not think Wargaming are going to change it, because if they change Autolock, then they are going to be messing around with the sales of the Weasel 1. And they're not going to do that. They are not going to tamper with the sales of the best selling premium in Era 2. They're just not. They're not going to do that. Anyway, that's all I've got for this video, guys. So if you've enjoyed it, please leave it a like. If not, a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you in the next one.